morning. So today we have two tasks that we're going to do. We're going to learn about adding and subtracting whole numbers, and we're going to actually do that through learning about PlayPosit. So PlayPosit might be familiar to you, and if it is, awesome, and if it's not, that's okay. It's super easy to use. It is going to be this video where I integrate questions and pauses and stopping points and check-ins throughout the video to see how you're doing with the math content. So sometimes it might be me, sometimes it might be another teacher or another instructor, and sometimes it might be my notebook or some visuals, and I'm looking forward to getting started. So go ahead, you're going to need your math notebook out and a pencil, something to write with, and let's get started with adding and subtracting whole numbers. Again, we've talked a little bit about how this might be familiar, and it should be familiar to you on how to add and subtract whole numbers, but we're getting our brains working, we're practicing using PlayPosit, we're practicing taking notes, and we're just getting started. So come join me, have an open mind, and let's get started. All right, so here we are. If you have not added page 1 and our topic, adding and subtracting whole numbers, into your math notebook, please go ahead and do so now. Okay. And we're going to flip this page here, and you can see that I've already titled it. And we're just letting that zoom in a little bit. I'm going to adjust my camera so you can make sure you see it clearly. Perfect. And then go ahead and write in today's date. Check the bottom of your computer screen on the right there and make sure you have the right date. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about the 4 basic operations here the first few days of math. So I'm going to ask you to make kind of what I call a 3T chart. So we're going to draw a T chart right here with 1 horizontal line and 2 vertical lines right here. And in the first column, we're going to have the operation. Then we're going to write it in words. And then we are going to write a version in algebra so that we can visually see it. And that just means that we're going to use letters and variables to represent numbers. So the first 2 operations that we're going to use today, and I'm going to switch colors so that you can clearly see them, is addition and subtraction. Okay, addition and subtraction. And those should be familiar to you. Those are skills that you've probably learned in elementary school. And when we find the answer to an addition problem, we're finding the sum. So the sum of SUM. And what that would look like with algebra, again, just using letters as numbers, and we'll learn more about that in the next few months, is when I take one number, which I'm going to pretend is A right now because I don't know that number, and I add another number to it. So A plus B. Okay, that might be like 1 plus 2. Okay, those are 2 different examples there. And when we're subtracting something, we are finding the difference of. So difference is that key word. Okay. And again, you're familiar with using the subtraction symbol, A minus B, which is the same thing as if I were to plug in numbers, 5 minus 1. Okay. So those are examples of addition and subtraction. Those, like I said, are familiar to you. One thing that I want you to remember is that we're actually trying to find the sum or difference of a set of numbers, and since we're in 6th grade, we're going to use a numbers that might be in like the hundreds or the thousands place. Okay, so they have numerous numbers, many place values. And so I have a resource for you if you like to use a place value chart, but I'm going to give you an example if we were to add 2,570 plus 3,145. And I'm going to label this as example 1. Okay. So the first thing that we want to do when we add and subtract whole numbers is that we're actually going to stack these numbers on top of each other. So remember, we're recording this information in your notebook. Please do so. And we are not using a calculator at this point in 6th grade math. So if you're at home and you are tempted to use a calculator, please keep it aside. Please tuck it away. We want to make sure that we have these place value skills nailed down before we move on to more complex tasks and standards. So I want to make sure that I stack, I'm going to call it stack, my numbers. Okay, and again, I'm going to switch colors. You do not have to switch colors. I'm just doing it so it's a little bit easier for you to follow in my notebook. I'm going to take my first number and I'm going to write it on one line, and the second number I'm going to write it on the same line below, but I'm going to write it backwards because I want to make sure that this last digit lines up with this last digit. So 5, 4, 1, 3. Okay, you want each digit, each place value to line up. So this is the ones place, the tens place, the hundreds place, and the thousands place. Super, super important. We're going to add those together. Now, the nice thing about addition is that it's commutative. So commutative just means that the sum is not going to change. The answer is not going to change no matter what the order. Okay? So essentially, order does not matter. So addition follows the commutative property. We will learn later on that subtraction does not, so order is super, super important. In this case, you could have put the larger number on top of the smaller number. When I add, I'm going to start from right to left, adding my ones place value. 0 plus 5 is 5. 7 plus 4 is 11, and I have to bring down my ones place, carry the 1 because I'm now in a different place value. 1 plus 5 plus 1 is 7, and 2 plus 3 is 5. So my final answer, or the sum, is 5,715. Okay, so that is the sum. Always super important when we are using place value, or when we're adding and subtracting whole numbers to use place value, because you want to make sure everything is lined up. Just like if we were to do one more example for adding whole numbers, and we had, 10,721 plus 313. Now notice that this number is a longer number. It has more place value, greater value in general than this number. Okay, and so I'm going to make sure I stack them. So I have 10,721, and I'm going to add 313, but I'm not going to start the 3 over. Let's change my key. I'm not going to start the 3 over here. I'm going to start over here and write it backwards. So 313. That's my strategy that I like to use, but if you know your place value really, really well, you can start in the hundreds place by putting the 3 under there, because this 3 is in the hundreds place. So we will start from right to left in the ones place. 1 plus 3 is 4, 2 plus 1 is 3, 7 plus 3 is 10, so I know I can put my ones place down below. I carry the 1 into the next place value. 1 plus 0 is 1, don't forget my comma, and 1, this other, this 10,000's place value, there's only one of them, there's nothing below, so it's below, it's 1. Here we are. So 11,034, and that is also the sum of our example. Okay, awesome. Remember, we're just getting started practicing how to take notes, practicing how to use PlayPosit, so we are using some concepts that might be more familiar to you. Trust me, I promise that Math 6 is going to get a little more complex. We're just taking our time getting acclimated back to school after our summer vacation. Okay, so you will see that I have a little bit of room left over. If you don't have any more room on this page, let's go ahead and flip the page to page 2 and write on the back. I am going to include one example of subtracting whole numbers. Okay, and the first example that we're going to do is 3,145, similar numbers that we've been using, minus 2,570. And one thing to remember is that subtraction is not commutative. So that means that you cannot switch the order of this problem. This number always has to come first, because if you do switch it, you get a different answer. So it's really important that when we're trying to figure out the context of how we ask and answer subtraction problems, we make sure that we start off with whatever number is first, even if it's not bigger, okay? So we do the same thing by making sure our place value lines up. And this is also a number into the thousands place, so everything's going to line up exactly, and you can go from right to left as well. And now I'm going to work my same way from right to left and subtract. 5 minus 0 is 5. Now 4 minus 7, I end up getting what we would see in the future as a negative number, but we're not quite there yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the hundreds place and I'm going to borrow. I'm going to turn that into a 1 or a 0, and I'm going to bring that hundreds place and make this a 14. Okay, so 14 minus 7 is 7. 0 minus 5, I still can't take 5 from 0 because I don't have anything to take from. So I'm going to go next door, turn that into a 2, and bring over 1 to my 10. 10 minus 5 is 5, and 2 minus 2 is 0. I don't necessarily have to put a 0 here, but if you'd like to, you are more than welcome to. So this number is the difference. Okay? Wonderful, wonderful job. So we're going to be practicing that a little bit today. If you need more room to finalize your examples, again, you can go on to the next page. We're not all going to be working on the same page of notes eventually, because everybody has different styles of writing, different sizes of writing. So remember, today we were just getting acclimated to PlayPosit. We were getting acclimated to taking notes in math class, and we were refreshing our brain on some skills that we might feel pretty confident with. So thank you for following along and getting this into your notebook, and I will see you soon.